Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. It's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe today. As Nigeria records 20 new cases of COVID-19, bringing to 343 our total number of confirmed cases in the country, the lockdown in the country over the coronavirus pandemic has been extended by 14 days. Now announcing the decision in a broadcast, President Buhari said the very difficult decision was taken knowing full well that it will severely disrupt livelihoods and bring undue hardship. However, he said such sacrifices are needed to limit the spread of COVID-19 in the country and necessary to save lives. Now, according to the president, the objective was and still remains to contain the spread of coronavirus and to provide space, time, resources for an aggressive and collective action.
Our approach to the virus remains in two steps. First, to protect the lives of our fellow Nigerians and residents living here, and second, to preserve the livelihoods of workers and business owners. With this in mind, and having carefully considered the briefings and the report from the Presidential Task Force and the various options offered, it has become necessary to extend the current restriction of movement in Lagos and Ogun states, as well as the FCT, for another 14 days, effective from 11:59 p.m. on Monday, 13th of April, 2020. I am therefore once again asking you all to work with government in this fight. The previously issued guidelines on exemptive services shall remain. This is a difficult decision to take, but I am convinced that this is the right decision. The evidence is clear. The repercussions of any premature end to the lockdown action is unimaginable. We must not lose the gains achieved thus far. We must not allow a rapid increase in community transmission. We must endure a little longer. In the last 2 weeks, we announced palliative measures such as food distribution, cash transfers, and loans repayment waivers to ease the pains of our restrictive policies during this difficult time. These palliatives will be sustained. I have also directed that the current social register be expanded from 2.6 million households to 3.6 million households in the next 2 weeks. This means we will support an additional 1 million homes with our social investment programs. A technical committee is working on this and will submit a report to me by the end of this week. As a result of this pandemic, the world as we know it has changed. The way we interact with each other, conduct our businesses and trade, travel, educate our children, and earn our livelihoods will be different. To ensure our economy adapts to this new reality, I am directing the Ministers of Industry, Trade and Investment, Communication and Digital Economy, Science and Technology, Transportation, Aviation, Interior, Health, Works and Housing, Labor and Employment, and Education to jointly develop a comprehensive policy for a Nigerian economy functioning with COVID-19. The ministers will be supported by the Presidential Economic Advisory Council and the Economic Sustainability Committee in executing this mandate. I am also directing the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, the National Security Advisor, the Vice Chairman, National Food Security Council, and the Chairman, Presidential Fertilizer Initiative, to work with the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 to ensure the impact of this pandemic on our 2020 farming season is minimized.
So that is a cut from the President's national address that took place at 7 p.m. last night or yesterday evening. Now, Doctor, the lockdown has been extended by another 14 days. Unrest continues. Insecurity is definitely going to be on the rise. And once again, what I brought up yesterday, which is the fact that the government is genuinely not going to be able to provide enough palliative measures for the people, is exactly what we're seeing here. President Muhammadu Buhari spoke about the fact that they're extending their current social register to 3.6 million households. Let's just imagine that the average household had 4 people, right? Or we can go more, but let's just imagine that's about 14.4 million people that can possibly impact. Once again, we have over 100 million people living below the poverty line. At the end of the day, the measures are simply not enough to cushion the effect. And I do not think we are looking at the Nigerian solution to the Nigerian problem. We need a lockdown. It is clear. And the good news is it's showing to work. For example, we saw today in the news as well that cases have, or the rate of cases has gone down. However, we need to look at the way in which we're going about it.
Well, first, let me say that it was a good thing that the president addressed the country yesterday. Many Nigerians have been anxious about when exactly he will offer that address after consultation with the Presidential Task Force and state governors. And I think that the president struck all the right notes in terms of the sentiments articulated in that particular address yesterday. And when he says, you know, this is a matter of life and death, this is not a joke. When he says we cannot be lax, when he appealed to Nigerians to endure a little bit more, those are statesmanly things to say. But in terms of content, yes, let's start with the conditional cash transfers, moratorium on loan repayments, and the food distribution program that we have in place. Now, he says, you know, a committee of ministers should oversee this, the extension from 2.6 million households to an additional 1 million households, which would be about 3.6 million. Now, so far, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs claims that they've been able to reach over 2 million people. But there have also been arguments, controversies about this, how this particular palliative is being handled by those in charge of it. And the International Center for Investigative Reporting is distributing some graphics trying to show that this is statistics obtained from the Office of the Conditional Cash Transfer Coordination, indicating some kind of lopsidedness in the distribution of these palliatives. And that's something that, you know, many Nigerians begin to complain about. Because if you look at the gap between what goes to the Northwest, the Northeast, and the North Central, and then you compare that with, according to that data, what is given to the Southwest, the number of households covered in the Southwest, just about 37,000 as at April 9. But over 571,000 households covered in the Northwest alone. Over 100,000 households covered in the Northeast. Over 321,000 households covered in the North Central. Now, these figures are out there. If the officials in charge are going to debunk those figures, they should do so. Because I've been seeing some reactions, people saying, look, this is not good enough. There should be fairness and equity in the distribution. That's one. Two, many Nigerians expected that the president will go further and announce other palliatives, apart from increasing the number of households. But perhaps in that regard, he has now mandated the National Economic Advisory Council and also the Presidential Economic Sustainability Committee to look at some of these issues and to make appropriate recommendations within a week to the president. And then, of course, people also expected that the lockdown should have been extended. Now that we have up to 19 states affected across the country, we will have expected that other states will have been included. But let's take a quick commercial break. When we return, the morning show will continue. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now to talk about the latest in business is Arise business analyst Rotus Odiri. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Leila.
How are
Good
you?
morning, I'm fine, thank you. So, it's my favorite topic to talk about. The Nigerian Stock Exchange has reopened. They are back after the Easter holidays. The market has posted about 3 consecutive days of gains. I believe on Thursday, the market was up by 1.47%. Yep, 21,384 points. Now, so this with what's been going on in the markets now, it conjures up the words of the immortal Warren Buffett to be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. So right now, the market is down about 20%. It's a bearish market, and Nigerian investors are fearful. In fact, there's actually an article out, I believe it's on Nairametrics or so, stating that Nigerian investors are actually going overseas to go and look at, U.S. dollar investments, European investments, and so on. And that's as a result, of course, of the macroeconomic environment. And they're nervous. And of course, look, the lockdown has just been extended now for another 14 days. How will that affect businesses? How is that going to, work its way into profits? Over in the U.S., this week is earnings season. So a number of companies are going to be releasing their earnings in the U.S. The markets actually fell yesterday because they are worried about what the impact of coronavirus is going to have on stocks. However, with people staying at home now, watching Arise News and not having anywhere to go, they have access to the stock markets. They should look at the value that is there because fundamentally, if you look at some of the blue chip stocks that we have on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, they are relatively cheap, not to start going into the wonkish stuff. But if you look at the price to earnings ratio, dividend yield, earnings per share, a number of these metrics for some of the most capitalized stocks that we have on the exchange are pretty valuable, and they're looking the fundamentals are looking pretty good. The only issue is that you're not really sure where the bottom of the market is. So if you were to buy into one particular stock at this price, it might fall further, which might spook investors. But what the investors are talking about, what traders are talking about as the market reopens today, which, by the way, I should add, it's remote trading because of the whole social distancing thing.
Yeah.
What they're talking about is, look, do we scoop up some more stocks? How are foreign investors viewing things? But the general gist is that even though things look a little bearish, which they are, it's an opportunity to buy in. And of course, I should add that, folks watching should consult with a financial advisor before, jumping in. But the market is back and it looks promising. So we might see another day.
The promise is also dogged by uncertainty, deepening of risks, and fear that the situation could get worse. I mean, we've moved from a health crisis to an global economic crisis.
Yes, indeed.
What we're facing is a financial crisis, and the markets are responding everywhere. I mean, European markets also closed for Easter holiday,
yes,
and they opened, and there was a decline. S&P 500, as of yesterday, went down by 2%,
yes, which
is, shaving off about 12% over the gains made last week. Markets in Japan and South Korea declined by 1.5%. And Wall Street analysts are saying that this year, we could have an 8% decline in the stock market in the United States, which would be worse than what happened during the 2009 financial crisis. But as you said, they're all looking at the first quarter earnings reports to see the implications of that. So the big fear, of course, is that investors, they will hedge their bets. Right. They will try to be very careful. But the question I would have loved you to address is that, are there certain areas where people can invest at this time in the market? And you said, well, viewers should study the markets very carefully because it will look like, even in the face of the crisis, the telcos seem to be doing very well.
Yes, indeed.
Agri startups, agri-tech startups, may also be an area. And some people are saying, oh, maybe cryptocurrencies. But, cryptocurrency, that's a very
volatile area.
It's still volatile and it's emerging, and the regulatory framework is not in place. So even in the face of disaster, there will still be opportunities for investment. But again, what would the authorities, the regulatory authorities, do? Because elsewhere, you'll find that, the banks, and the financial markets, they are almost together, and they feed on each other for you to be able to get the kind of growth that you want within the economy.
Indeed.
Anyway, thank you, Rotus.
Yeah, I was going to say, at least it's good that the markets are back open.
Yes, they're back. So we'll see how things
Good
go
news.
Today.
Thanks, Rotus, and we'll see you tomorrow. That's all on the news headlines and for our business analysis as well. We'll go on a short break now, and when we're back, Aaron Akere-Jola will join us for sports headlines of today. Stay with us.
the virus that causes the disease, known as COVID-19, is spreading globally, including here in Nigeria.
The disease, also known as COVID-19, spreads from person to person through respiratory droplets when an infected person coughs or sneezes.
These droplets can spread to the mouth, the hands, or the nose of an infected person nearby. The droplets also stay on surfaces.
But do you know what else is spreading and even faster? The infodemic.
Yes, the infodemic, according to the World Health Organization, is the spreading of false and misleading information on the coronavirus pandemic.
The spread of infodemics or misinformation about the virus can undermine government and health officials' response to the outbreak.
But you can help fight the spread of this false information. How, would you ask?
If it looks alarming, spreads hysteria, panic and fear, it probably shouldn't be shared.
Also, do not rely just on your traditional source of information.
Double check where the information is coming from before spreading or hitting that forward button.
And most importantly, for clear, credible, and crucial information on the coronavirus,
please visit the designated sites of the health authorities such as NCDC, Ministry of Health, and of course, Arise News.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We're now joined by our sports analyst, Aaron Akirajala, for the latest or overnight developments as well in the world of sports. Good morning, Aaron. How are you?
Good morning, Leila. Good morning, Doctor. It's good to see you this morning.
You too.
And as a matter of fact, developments are actually coming in, and there's always been talks about sports stars actually pitching in and also putting in their efforts in the fight against COVID-19, and it's a collective effort, and everyone has to be on board. Although the EPL players and those that apply the trade in the English Premier League are still in a state of limbo at the moment, but one man is taking it a little bit further, and he's setting the benchmark. He's always set the benchmark for what happens or how sportsmen are being positioned, both on and off the field, when he was playing and even after he has played football, and that is the Ivorian legend Didier Drogba. At the moment, he's opened his hospital in Abidjan to the government to use in the fight against COVID-19. We know that about 574 cases have been recorded, 5 have died in Ivory Coast, and he said he's opened his hospital out for them to use, and the Loro Poko Hospital will be part of the one of the 13 hospitals that will be used as isolation centers at this critical time. And I must actually commend Didier Drogba for what he has done, because he's a man that, you look at Africans, few Africans who have played here in Africa, because he was born in Abidjan before moving on to France when he was 6 years old, but few Africans have actually done what he has done. Because in the time of crisis when Ivory Coast were in a civil war, this was a man that came out and was trying to unite different factions together. So this is a man that doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk. He knows he has a very massive vantage position in life, and he has used it to the betterment of Ivory Coast. And I'm actually hoping that several African footballers, superstars, can do the same.
Yes, it's a commendable act of patriotism.
Yeah.
And, it's good to also see in Africa someone like Didier Drogba making a contribution to the war against COVID-19. Internationally, we've seen a lot of sports people. Conor McGregor in Ireland, Ronaldo, Serena Williams, and a whole, long list of athletes and sports figures who have seen this as an opportunity to give back to society. As you said, we would like to see more of this across Africa, and particularly in Nigeria, where Nigerian athletes seem to have been relatively quiet.
They are very mum at this moment.
Although when the president of the NFF was on the program, and we had asked him directly, he said in his own personal capacity he's doing certain things, but he doesn't believe in publicizing it. But the publicity also will reassure people that at this critical time of need, of social solidarity, as opposed to social distancing, it's good to see all privileged persons giving back to society. So Drogba has done very well. And, you know, he deserves every praise for what he has done.
I completely agree. No, this is great news. It's always great to see your athletes coming out, your public figures coming out to support in any way that they can. And when you see it on a scale like this, automatically it makes you extremely happy. What he's doing for his country is amazing.
And not just that alone, because this hospital was built in 2016. And you look at that and you say to yourself, oh, this is a man, usually, what superstars in Africa always do, maybe erect playing pitch. This is a man that built a hospital for his country, and you look at that and say to yourself that this is how to go about it, because these people earn huge monies. I know, Doctor, you always say I always refer to the monies, huge amount of money, but it also behoves on you to give back to society that has given you quite a lot, or giving you the foundation to actually do whatever you want to do. But before we go quickly, let's also mention that at the moment, the Okpakpe road race that is supposed to come up sometime in May has been called off due to the COVID-19. It was a no-brainer at this point in time, because every tournament that is in the space of the next 3 months are actually stand the risk of being called off if they have not been called off at the moment. And the Okpakpe road race, which has been on for 8 years, is rather unfortunate that this year they will not have that race in Edo State.
Well, I mean, as you said, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
The whole world is on lockdown
at the moment.
It will make no sense to carry out a 10 kilometers race at a time of COVID-19.
At all.
We are all everywhere in the world in a wait-and-see mode for now.
Yeah.
So it's wait and see until we record the necessary success in the war against COVID-19.
Yeah.
I don't think that anybody will lose sleep over the postponement of...
Some will be losing sleep. Those organizers certainly will have shared out, but they will be losing sleep. But of course, the general public wouldn't. All right.
Anyway, thank you very much.
It was a pleasure.